he would do something to one of his older brothers and then run screaming, like flick the ear and then run. And, the older brother would get in trouble at first. And we're like, wait a minute. Okay, you're antagonizing them and you're starting it.
Sherri, welcome back. I'm loving this conversation. I love talking about sibling relationships because I have two girls who are siblings, and this is a huge part of homeschooling. We've talked about siblings before on the podcast with other guests, and I feel like it's one of those topics that we can continue to talk about all the time because it's not like we ever just find the answer. We never just find the one cure. Like, oh, okay, that's the one thing I'm missing, and let's just do that, and everything's going to be smooth sailing from here. We are always in a constant battle, it seems, for our children's relationship with one another. And there are some siblings who get along really well all the time or most of the time. And then there's those who just don't get along as well. And it's hard. It's hard to work through that as parents. And one of the things that I think can be very difficult is boys versus girls. And then girls versus girls and boys versus boys. And there are different dynamics on every side of that. So I want to talk for a minute about the difference between boys and girls, because you have 3 boys, your youngest is a girl, and I'm sure that caused all kinds of drama with having her as the baby. And, maybe she had those older brothers who were her protectors, but maybe sometimes not. I don't know. But talk about having been a mom of boys and a girl. What did that look like with their relationship towards one another? Like, what differences did you see between the girl and the boys, and how did you help them work through that?
So, yeah, I mean, the daughter, there were days she'd come down the hall and her hands on her hips. Someone didn't make their bed this morning. And I'm like, that's not your responsibility. There was a mothering need, or she was a firstborn daughter, and firstborns tend to have that, things must be done right way. And so there was that friction between her and her brothers because she kind of was like a mother to them in some ways. And that's a girl thing in many ways. The boys were rougher with each other. Some were rougher than others. Our third son, we called him Speed because he was a fast runner. But we realized he learned how to run fast because he would do something to one of his older brothers and then run screaming, like flick the ear and then run. And, the older brother would get in trouble at first. And we're like, wait a minute. Okay, you're antagonizing them and you're starting it. But, we'd hear the screaming and we'd say, stop behaving like that with your younger brother. Be nice.
Right.
And so there's this whole dynamic. And boys, so starting off boys versus girls, there is and we all know physiologically there's difference, but there's a difference in the way our brains are wired, male versus female. There's, and testosterone is a thing. It's a hormone that literally floods during development, literally floods the boy baby's brain. And that causes changes physiologically and how they think, how their brain is wired. Girls have more connections between the lobes of the brain. And so they process things connected together. There's more complex pieces when it comes to a situation than a boy, whereas a boy, they're just kind of, and I'm speaking in generalities because we all will have children that don't fit those averages, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with them. God made them perfectly the way they are. But as a whole, boys tend to be more black and white. They tend to, it's this or it's that, and it's, this is good, this is bad, or at least just it's a simple. I always knew how my boys were feeling, whether they were happy, whether they were sad. It was easy to see. Whereas my daughter, there was more complexity going on. There was more, she'd be sad for we don't know why, or happy for we don't. I mean, there was just so much more. And then throw in adolescence, and you get even more fun. And then not couple that with menopause, and that's even more fun. But just adding to adolescence, you're going to get young men who are designed to be future heads of household. God made it that way. So their desire to lead is strong. Their desire to, this is right, this is what we should do, this is how it should be done, is going to cause friction between their siblings and between mom and dad, for that matter. And so navigating that, this is your place, this is not your responsibility, this is my responsibility over your brothers or your sister. I appreciate that you have this need or desire or interest, And that's where we have to affirm as they're developing that, even with our daughter coming out, so-and-so didn't make his bed. There's a careful, line between tattling and understanding what should be done and what shouldn't be done. So we would talk more about, here's the positive of this. You understand what needs to be done in the morning. And, that's something that all of us need to work together, whether it's our morning chores or, how we behave with each other. And yet it's not how we behave in this response. That's a mom or dad responsibility. I will be checking up on them because that's part of my responsibility. The brother who says, no, we're doing it this way, we're leading, the older ones tends to lead what the kids do because they're older and they've always had the advantage. Right. And we're watching this movie or we're playing this game. And the younger ones have kind of had to follow along because that's all they've known. But eventually they're going to get to a point where they're going to stand up and say, I don't want to do that. I want to do it this way because they're unique. And so the older ones need to learn to defer and need to learn to understand, this is a natural inclination that I have to be a leader and God wired me this way to want to control the situation more. And some of our daughters will be like this too. And yet this is not the place for me to be doing this, or I need to be doing it carefully with my siblings. The boys need to be more tenderhearted to their sisters. The sisters need to be understanding that the boys are going to be more active or physical, or, there's a whole thinking behind men bonding differently than women. Women tend to bond more communicatively. And so you're going to have more communication with your daughter. The daughter's going to want to talk to the boys, whereas the boys just want to work alongside of each other. Right. And that's bonding. I'm playing my Legos, you're playing with your Legos. We're playing Legos together, but I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing, and we're bonding. And yet that's not enough for the girl. She wants to take the horsey and bring it into the castle and talk to you and make you. And the boy's like, no. This is not playing together. This is invading my space. And so we have to help them to understand that there's unique differences in the way God made them. And I would continually use that terminology because it takes it off of their responsibility of, I've got to be nicer. I've got to be, God made me to be this way. And God gave me these siblings. And so I get to enjoy whatever blessings come from those relationships. And it's hard, but there will be positives. And I want to see that in the future. And so we're helping them to get a vision for what they're doing as well. So that's just kind of touching the beginnings of that, the, male, female differences, age differences affect things too. You've got your olders and then you've got your youngers, and they have to, the youngers need to learn to respond. And some of them have such a big age gap that the olders tend to be a little parental to the younger ones, and we may ask them to. We may say, can you make breakfast for your sister? She's, in a high chair. And the brother will do that. Or can, the sister will take care of the younger brother. And can you take him over, over to the swing and swing with him? Mom, he's picking, he's pulling my hair. That's, there's that whole dynamic. And yet we're asking them to take on some of that parenting type of responsibility. And yet they're still siblings. And so having to come back and circle back that way, yes, you can teach them this. If you want to teach them how to tie their shoes, by all means, do it. That's great. And I'm proud of you for doing it. And I'm proud of them for learning. And if they're bucking you right now, you're not to be the one,
Yeah, you don't get to discipline them.
No. Come to me. We can talk about it. Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's every family's going to have a different dynamic. But again, I want to keep coming back to the principles behind it, helping them to see their uniqueness, helping them to understand the vantage point of the others, helping them to understand we are here for each other. We are Seligsons. We share, we do this. This is who we are as a family because God has given us this unique situation.
Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.